In order for us to fully grasp the concept of buck-breaking and the historic sexual exploitation of black people under the global system of white supremacy, we first have to go back into the history of Europe, and we have to understand what created this ideology and the mindset of the white supremacists.
The European culture have no history of a civilizing educational process called culture before they meet us. So you're dealing with someone that's moving from the level of the animal, responding only to instincts and desires. And whatever it takes to fulfill that, raping, murdering, plundering, pillaging, has been the history of Europe.
They created a perverted way of looking at nature. And so it becomes important that when we look at them, it's not just what they do, it's the perversion of what they do. In an ice age, you're going to create a certain mentality. When you are in a sun age, you're going to create a certain mentality. So what is very natural becomes unnatural in the ice. However, when you come back to the natural, you bring your unnatural with you.
The European sexual culture operated at the level of animal, responding to physical yearning and physical stimulation. The sacredness and the value that the African placed on giving birth was just the complete opposite in Europe. And so that's why you find so many occasions of Europeans involving themselves with the animals they were raising. I mean, they've passed laws in Scandinavian countries even today that said having sex with sheep is appropriate.
The Greeks had gods devoted to, like Pan, which is a freak, like a satyr, which means like an animal that did people and animals. Or Ganymede, the god that was bisexual. If he showed up, you had to like give him some. It was good. If you didn't, you got in trouble. I mean, you have people have a pantheon where you have gods that are freaks that come and screw people. Some of them are almost animal-like. You've got Bacchus. If you look at, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Bacchus, but I've seen a picture of Bacchus where he's a dude carrying this big thing of wine with hummingbirds or something with strings holding his penis up. A big long penis, a big thing of booze. If that's your God, okay, I mean, all bets off the table that it stops there, right?
When the Aryans, the Indo-Aryans, ran up into Black India, not only did they savage the place, not only did they brag and boast in their sacred literature about flaying the black gods, flaying the black skin of the gods, but they bragged about sodomizing the black gods.
As a matter of fact, as a part of their culture, you have agreements. This is how it was. If you had a boy that you were, having sexual relations with, 12, 13, 14, 15, you'd have to do a number of things. One, you'd have to promise him protection. Two, you'd have to promise that you would educate him. Three, you'd have to make sure that you would always provide for him, whatever that may be. There were actual terms and agreements when it came to you having sexual relations with a little boy back in the ancient Greek and Rome.
Professor Jane Ward, for example, in her book, Not Gay, documents that a critical element of white male masculinity is the ability to have gay sex as a straight white man. She said that's a critical element of white male masculinity. So the very concept of white masculinity is predicated upon the ability to sodomize, to have.
A human being is only as great or as worse as his or her environment. In an ice age, where you are dealing with these temperatures, your babies are freezing in your arms to death. No mercy. And so they have this mentality of just of viciousness because they're reflecting their environment. And so when the ice ages began to melt, give or take about maybe 5,000, 7,000 years ago, they came back across the mountains. And when they came back across the mountains, they brought that mentality with them. When you're in the ice, you're not really thinking about healthy relationships. And quite frankly, when the urge hits you, any hole will do.
Heterosexual